Hello and welcome to episode 153, actually 154, of the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Howard Kravitz. No, we are not live. Don't adjust your screen. There is no live chat for this episode. We're going to be covering the Woodbine Pick 5 this Saturday with my two excellent co-hosts. They'll be coming on here in just a moment. A few quick reminders. Please make sure you subscribe on the bottom right hand side of the screen. Make sure you hit the notification bell if you've not done that. Also, and then smash that like button. We'd really appreciate it. Of course, on the name tag on the bottom of the screen, you can see my Twitter handle at HKravitz. And I do not have a scroll on the bottom of the screen right now, but all know my email, which is hkravitzhorse at gmail.com. One word, hkravitzhorse at gmail.com. The reason why we're doing a taped show here today on Thursday is because we do have a live show coming up tonight, Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, which, depending on when you watch this, might have already happened. But if you do happen to watch this episode before Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, make sure you check out the live show Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, discussing the fantastic card at Churchill Downs, Stephen Foster Day, this Saturday with a bunch of fantastic stakes with myself, Pete Visco, and Paul Halloran. But today, on this episode, as we discuss for the first time on this show in quite a while, a Woodbine card. And wow, is it a fantastic card? Let me bring on my co-hosts for today. You all know him. You all love him. Let's bring on from the East Coast, Pete Visco, and returning from many different things, mainly with his family he'll talk about. It's the return of Jim Pillars. Guys, how you doing today?
I'm doing terrific, Howard. Good to be back with you boys.
Pete, how you doing? Got a little different background there, Pete. Pete, you're no sound, Pete. We don't hear you right now. He'll go ahead. Pete will go ahead and fix that. Jim, as Pete's fixing his sound,
Sure.
Jim, tell everyone where you've been, what you've been up to, as much as you'd like to detail. By the way, I don't know if you guys can see there. I got the new T-shirt. I hopefully I will be alive in the Pick 5. I've not thrown out that T-shirt, but we got the HHH Racing Podcast T-shirt now in the back. Jim, tell everyone where you've been the last few weeks.
Yeah, actually, I've been on the road, Howard. It's amazing. I think I've been out of the area more than I've been home the last 5-6 weeks or so. My wife and I did have a couple of trips planned. We went down to Louisville and saw Churchill Downs for the first time and took a little road trip to Memphis and Nashville. We had a second trip planned to South Dakota and Yellowstone. Those were pre-planned. My youngest daughter threw us a little bit of a curveball. She lives in the Washington, D.C. area, called us up and said, "Hey, I've got a job opportunity in Sarasota, Florida. I'm a little nervous about it. Would you come with me? I'm going to an interview. If I accept the job, would you help me find a housing in the area?" So in between those two trips, we went down to Sarasota. My daughter ended up taking the job. After our South Dakota Yellowstone trip, we ended up going back again, renting a moving truck, moving her from Virginia to Florida, helping her set up her apartment. We've literally been gone 4 of the last 5 or 6 weeks or so. So it hasn't been that I've been keeping up on the show. I've been commenting when I can. I watch the replays. I've been wagering via long distance, but just haven't had an opportunity really to sit down and join you guys. And I appreciate the invite back.
Oh, absolutely. We're happy to have you back, Jim. And Pete, your sound is good now. You want to talk?
I have no idea. Can you hear me?
Now you're good. Yep, you're
Okay.
all good. All right. So anyway, guys, we're going to jump right into the Woodbine Pick 5. And I don't know what you guys thought about this Pick 5 on Saturday. It's going to be races, let's see, 7 through 11. It is the last 5 races on Saturday, Woodbine. There's 4 graded stakes. This is basically a preview or one of 2 previews they're going to have for Queen's Plate Day, which I believe is in late August. I have to check the date on that.
August
Is that right,
21st,
Jim?
Howard.
Okay, 21st,
Yeah.
day after my birthday. So maybe they'll be celebrating my birthday. They're celebrating my birthday there as well. But anyway, this is one of these huge preview days that they have, and I'm really excited to talk about Woodbine because I think it's a great betting interest here. There's large fields. I've always liked Woodbine. If you're wondering why haven't we covered Woodbine, they really just haven't had a lot of stake races yet. They're really gearing up now here as they start the bulk of their stake season. So, guys, let's go ahead and jump right in. I'm going to go ahead and put up our picks here for race 7, which is the start of the pick five. Now we can see that on the bottom of the screen. Let me get rid of, well, we're good with that banner. Let me go ahead and bring up the race 7 Equibase. There we go. And by the way, I fixed the top here, got a new banner. So now that looks perfect. We got the HHH Racing Podcast there at the top. Guys, this starts with race 7. Now, race 7, as I go ahead and go full screen here, is the Celine Stakes. This is a grade 3. This is restricted 3-year-old fillies. They're going a mile and a 16th. This is one of these prep races on the road to the Woodbine Oaks, I believe, which is run on Queen's Plate Day. It's the biggest 3-year-old race on the day, on Queen's Plate Day, although that race is for open company, as is this race as well. The pick 5 starts approximately at 4:16 Eastern Standard Time on Saturday. Let's take a look at the field there. It's an 8-horse field. You can see on the screen. The morning line favorite is the horse all the way on the bottom for Jonathan Thomas, and an excellent rider who I'm going to talk about quite a bit on this show, Kazushi Kimura, who is really quite the rider. This horse is 5-2 morning line. Pete, we're going to have you start first. They go to the PPs. You are going with Mrs. Barbara, Mark Cassie, and I believe Rafael Hernandez. 3-1 morning line.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. So I was looking at, this was a tough field. I mean, I think actually you mentioned it earlier. I think all of these were pretty tough. There weren't really any standouts in any of these races for me, but this one, so I liked a few things about this one. Well, first of all, Cassie. I mean, Cassie's got about 1,000,000 horses running in this sequence, but I mean, he's always good to have in your corner at Woodbine. But I like the one thing I liked is the best races that this horse has run have been on the synthetic, because it's actually bounced around a little bit between turf and synth. And then it ran its best 2 races also at this distance. And then in the last one, it actually ran a lifetime buyer top. It ran second as the favorite, which maybe, you wouldn't think is always the best thing. But if you watch the replay, they were sprinting, first of all, and this horse is a pretty good closer, but this one sort of steadied a couple times, was looking for room, and then once it got late, it was flying, and it was sort of against a speed bias, at least as far as the PPs say. I didn't look at the whole card that day, but it picked up Lasix that day, so it just has a lot of things going for it. It's coming out of some pretty good races, some solid competition, and I think if it just takes another step forward, I think it's got a really good shot. And I'm hoping that the speed,
3-horse here in blue splitting.
Yeah,
right there,
so
a little steady right there.
It steadies there because it can't find the hole, and then it's still looking, and then finally he decides. I forget who was. Yeah, Hernandez was on that day too. Dips to the rail, and then is making up a ton of ground. But the 4 had already. I mean, if you watch the whole race, the 4 had a pretty nice trip and just sort of kicked away. So there was no catching that horse. But I thought the 3, for what the trip it had, just did a lot and came up and was the favorite. So it was thought well of anyway going into the race. Now you're getting the extra distance. Now you're getting, hopefully, 3rd race on the synth this year. I'm hoping for another step up. And I think as long as this one gets a little bit of pace to run into and a decent trip, it's got a good shot.
I just wanted to say, Join the Dance was the 1 horse in that race. So the 5 horse in this race on Saturday is the 1, or was the 1 in that replay. I think by any measure, guys, that clearly Mrs. Bar was better than Join the Dance. None of us have the 5. Actually, you have the 5 in 3rd, Pete. I just wanted to mention that for the viewers. You've got the 8. We actually all have the 8.
We all have the 8 in second.
Yeah. Pete. So why don't you talk about that, and then I'll have Jim talk about his top choice. The number 8 is the morning line favorite, who won very easily by 9 lengths last time.
Yeah, I mean, this one, just looking at the form, it's hard to step away from it. I mean, 3 races on the synth, the last 3, you get the win by 6, a second by 4 to Candy Raid, who's a good horse, and then another roll by 6. This horse, lifetime buyer, I mean, jumped all the way to a 93. I mean, sometimes that's a little fishy when you get such a big buyer jump. You wonder if there's a regression that might come after that, but just it looked so good doing it. And I mean, just on the page and form and figures. And it's also Thomas Kimura. You talked about Kimura a little bit, but the Thomas Kimura combination has been fantastic. So it's pretty much got everything going for it. So it's just hard to leave off a ticket.
This horse look at the stride. This is a very big striding filly. This Phil looks like she could probably run all day. I think she's gonna be pretty tough to beat, but we all are gonna go ahead and try to do that. There is some other speed in this race. I don't think she's just gonna be able to pull away that easily here in this spot, but she figures to get a very good
Hey,
trip.
Howard,
And
can I
guy,
make a quick comment about Katish?
yeah, Jim.
Um,
Before we do that, real quick, I think we can all forget about the 5-2. This horse is going to be 8-5. I don't see
right.
any chance in hell
Yeah.
she's 5-2. Go ahead about Katish, Jim.
You'll see the January 30th race at Gulfstream Park. I got some trip notes from that date, and my trip
Okay,
notes from that date stated the horse just hated the kickback that day.
okay,
Irad had the horse, and Irad got the horse clear about halfway through the stretch. And once the horse was clear of the kickback, ran phenomenally, galloped out well. And my notes stated that this horse really should go long and to the front. And the very next race, I guess the connections probably felt the same way. They took off dirt and put on the poly, which has less kickback. They did go long, and they went right to the front. As the three races that the horses had have been interesting because when they went to Turfway Park, it actually tried to close. The race at Turfway fell apart a little bit, which was interesting. The horse got out poorly, was near the end, closed really, really well. But
yeah,
the thing that concerns me a little bit about Katish is that Turfway Park race, the horse that won the race was 50-1. The horse
okay,
that finished third, I think, was 16-1, and they were both behind Katish coming to the finish line. The last race at Woodbine, I think, was maybe a little bit of a weaker field. Had to get a lot more speed pressure today, and I don't know if she's going to quite have it her own way. It'll be interesting to see. I think that the 5-horse Join the Dance is going to be on the front as well.
yeah. Join
Emma
the
was,
dance is definitely going to show speed. I was just trying to show everyone the pace scenario here. And actually, that doesn't look like there's a lot of speed, but you'd think Join the Dance is going to have the lead here. You're going with the 2 here, Jim, on top. The 2 is Pioneer's Edge, who neither Pete nor myself has anywhere. So obviously, we must be missing something, Jim. 4-1 morning line, really good trainer here. Again, if you're not familiar, let me put myself back on. Actually, let me put everyone back on screen here just for a moment. There's some trainer. Whoops, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Want to do that. There's some trainers and some jockeys we really haven't talked about on the show in quite a long time. And it's not for any negative reasons other than the fact, again, that Woodbine has not had very many stake races. When we tell you about these trainers and jockeys, I know Jim lives in Buffalo. He's not very far from Woodbine. He knows the Woodbine circuit maybe better than the three of us. Although I do watch it once in a while. I'm sure Pete does too. As I go back to the PPs here, Jim, Josie Carroll is an excellent trainer. Justin Stein is a good veteran rider. In case some of you aren't familiar with some of these horse people, there's a
mm-hmm.
lot of talent up in Canada. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah. Josie Carroll may be one of the best trainers. I know your top selection is also a Josie Carroll trained horse as well. And in
Yeah.
fact, they both broke their maiden on the same day. Pioneer's Edge, this is the one replay that I was asking you to show. Pioneer's Edge had all kinds of issues in his last race right from the beginning. Right off the gate, it got a fantastic education last race. Right off the start.
I'll go ahead and just show it from the start, and you can talk about it's the 2 horse. Go
He's
ahead.
the 2 horse. He's going to actually brush the gate. This is a horse that should be near the front, stalking position. Hit the gate, took a little sideward steps, as you can see, gets out almost last. Right there. 2 posts. Now the two I expect to be where the 1 is right now. Now the 2 rushes up and is stuck between horses all the way up to the top of the stretch. You see he's got a horse.
You can see right there the horse. She wants to run.
She wants to run. She's generally more forwardly placed, so they back off a little bit here. And she's going to stand behind. What's going to be interesting is when they get to the top of the stretch. Yeah, fast forward to the top of the stretch. You're going to see they're going to spread 4 across, and Pioneer Valley is going to be behind them. And Justin Stein spends about 100 yards from here trying to figure a way through. He's got a lot of horse. There's 4 across. He's trying to get in, trying to get in. He can't do anything. Suddenly he decides, now I'm going to take the horse wide. He loses 3 or 4 lengths here, takes the horse sideways, and once the horse starts running, unbelievable turn of foot right here, starts flying down the stretch. Galloped out huge, was by the 5 horse, a step or 2 behind, galloped out past.
Almost got, wait, did you see that? Almost got in front of the plane.
Yeah, the airplane was there. That was wild.
Well,
I haven't seen this replay.
I don't know if I've ever seen that before.
Look at the shadow now. You don't see that so often. She's so fast. Look at that.
Like a jet.
She's so fast, she almost beat the damn plane.
Not fast enough for me. I bet the horse that day was very frustrated by the ride and, of course, the finish, but made it a comeback horse. The horse is going now for the first time 2 turns, which may be a little bit of a question. And I know that a lot of people are kind of suckered into betting horses that close well at a sprint that are going 2 turns for the first time. I think the breeding is right on this one. Um, the horse is out of Pioneer the Nile, gets 19% routers on synth. And the dam Leading Edge broke her maiden at Woodbine at 1 mile and 70 yards and was finished third in a greatest stakes race at the same distance. So the breeding is there to go the distance. The horse had all kinds of trouble, got a fantastic education. And the other thing that kind of leads me is that Josie Carroll is actually, I think, a little bit higher on Pioneer's Edge than your top selection. They did an interview that I was watching, and this one is nominated for the Woodbine Oaks, which goes at the end of July.
Okay.
She was kind of berating her bad luck, but happy with the experience the horse had, and she has very, very high hopes for this horse. If they do well in the Woodbine Oaks, they're going to, point further on. The horse has a lot of upside, had a difficult trip. I love the acceleration in the stretch. And the reason I kind of like this one over Pete's Pick a little bit is the early pace. Pioneer's Edge is, I think, going to be in front of Mrs. Barbara as they come to the top of the stretch and should get the jump on her. And when I saw that turn of foot in the stretch, I think she accelerated fantastic when she spread wide. And it may be enough to keep her going. I think her price will be so much better, too. 4-1, I handicapped this, I think, as you guys did without the morning lines. And I was surprised. I thought this one might be more in the 6-8-1 range. I still think may go off that high. So I think, combining win potential with value, I think Pioneer's Edge has got a fantastic chance.
Yeah, watching the replay again, that Buyer is misleading because she a lot more horse than I could tell. She could probably run much faster than that. I'm going to quickly talk about my top choice, which is the other Josie Curl. I have to admit to all the viewers and listeners out there, I did not have that information that Jim had. That supposedly Josie Curl likes the 2 more than the 4. That might change my opinion a little bit. I do like Afrata though quite a bit, especially 8-1. Her 2 starts back, as you can see, I mean, she freaked and won very easily, was very impressive, won by 9. Last time, I'm not going to show the replay, it was on turf, which she might not like as much, even though she's she's by by Go Zapper out of a Dan Silly mare. But either way, either surface is fine. She was 3 wide on that trip, and that was on the inner turf. And if you know anything about the inner turf at Woodbine, you do not want to lose ground. She lost ground almost every step of the way and lost to a very nice horse called Seasons in that race. She's got races on the go back. I like the post. I like Contreras. I think the 4 is a major factor in this race. I think there's enough speed to set it up. But truthfully, as I rehash the whole thing, Katisha is definitely a horse to beat. If she runs her last race, I'm not sure they're going to get her. But I'm not sure about that Buyer Fig, and this is a much, much tougher field. So it's a fascinating race, guys. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Let's go to race 8. And Jim, you're going to start us off here on the next race. Race 8 is, as I bring up on screen here, is the Nassau Stakes. This is grade 2. They're going, I believe, this is for fillies and mares, older fillies and mares. On the turf, they're going a mile. You see some familiar faces in this race. It is an 11-horse field. Can't get them all on screen here at one time. The morning line favorite is the number 2, Lady Spitespear, a horse that we've talked about a few times before, for Roger Atfield and Emma Jane Wilson, another excellent rider in the saddle. Jim, you are going with Lady Spitespear on top in this race.
Yeah, I really like Lady Spitespear a lot. A lot of it might be a little bit of bias because I watched her at Woodbine at the end of last year dominate, winning three consecutive races, including a grade 1 on the turf. She gets back to Woodbine. This is an example of a horse I think that you can call dirtied up form a little bit. It looks like maybe the horse has tailed off and hasn't run that well lately, but has unbelievable excuses in 3 or 4 of the last races. The last race at Churchill, I think with the turf situation there, you can almost throw that out. I don't think any horse that's run on that, especially on that May 7th day on the turf at Churchill, can have that race held against her. The previous race at Keeneland broke in the air. Generally a front runner. I don't know what was up with Luis Saez, but at the beginning of the race, all hope was lost. I mean, she was done. I mean, she was spotted 5 or 6 lengths as they walked out of the gate. Prior to that, she was beaten twice by Bleecker Street. I don't think anybody can hold that against her. Bleecker Street's, I think, on a 7-race win streak at the time. and she ran big against both of them. She's been running against grade 1, grade 2, grade 3 quality horses. She's got 2 wins, in graded
I,
stakes. She loves Woodbine. She loves the track. She's reunited with her owner. Roger Atfield, as a trainer, is significantly better at Woodbine than outside of Woodbine. If you look at Atfield's stats, he's about 10% outside of Woodbine and closer to 17, 18% at Woodbine. He tends to take his horses down south every year and just, I think, keeps them in shape, runs them a little bit,
yeah,
gets them ready really for the Woodbine meet.
yep.
The horse is coming back to her home track. She's the only proven graded winner here. And I just think she lays over the field. I'll be honest. I
But
really like her.
I think Paul Halloran is becoming the president of the Bleecker Street fan club. I think he actually would have a Bleecker Street shirt next to his Catholic boy shirt there at home. By the way, again, if you're watching, thank you very much for watching the show. This episode 154 of the HHH Racing Podcast. We're talking about Woodbine. If you happen to see 0 viewers on the screen, don't be dismayed by that. We are not live. Again, this is not a live show. This is a taped show, so therefore we will obviously have no viewer comments. Lady Spitespear, 3 for 3 over the Woodbine Oval. Pete, you have this horse on top also.
Yeah, I pretty much Jim said everything the same things I thought. I mean, just again, you look at the horses this one is running against, and a lot of those would sort of be big chalks in this field. So I just think on class, and again, yeah, I think it is muddied up a bit because I think normally this horse would have probably been more in the. I could have seen this horse in more of like the 7, 8 to 5 range morning line in this field, but the last few races don't look as good as maybe they should. Trying to close when not a closer into some slow paces, and now coming back to Woodbine, which she loves. So I just think she's awfully tough.
You've got the 8 for second, our flash drive. Pete, I have the 8 for second also, and Jim has the 8 for third. Again,
Mhm.
we all handicapped us, I'm assuming, without morning lines.
Yep.
Correct.
When I saw 8-1, I was salivating. I think this horse is getting better and better, Pete, and I think she's very live in this spot.
Yeah, me too. And I that was my thinking. And especially I like, me, I'd say it all the time on this show. I like when you go from year over year, especially like 2 to 3, 3 to 4, even sometimes 4 to 5. And I like to see that improvement. And that one came back, lost the first one at Tampa, but that's a good horse. I mean, Shifty She's a good horse. Then comes back and loses to Rougier, who, although maybe disappointed last time, is still a top quality horse, especially in a field like this at sort of a grade 3 level. The Cassie
Yeah.
husbands combination is ridiculous and has been, over, I forget what it is. It's over 30% though. So, you can't go wrong there. And then this one, I just think, again, at the price, I was with you. I said, if I see this one at a price, it's definitely one I just want to leave on, especially again, you got the buyer top, come back at 4, gets a buyer top in the second start, which I love. Has run and won at Woodbine, which again is always a plus. So I think this one has a lot going for it, especially at this price.
I agree. I mean, and she had the lead last time, so you think the small
Yep,
cutback, she had the lead and then it got run over late, but I think this cutback's going to work very well. The outside
agree.
post is not ideal going that one turn mile down that sort of long chute because I've seen horses that can be wide. You really want to save ground at Woodbine on that outer turf because it's such a long stretch. Just you have plenty of time to find room in this stretch. So I found in general you want to try to save ground on that one turn if possible. I'm not sure our flash drive is going to be able to do that. The other horse that I want to mention that I think might actually go off the favorite in front of Lady Spitespear, it's just a guess of mine, is Crystal Cliffs, who is in really good form. And again, she's faced some really nice horses, technical analysis last time. I think there's enough speed to set up for her close. I've got this horse on top. I love Rowan Hernandez is very good. This is owned by Dub and Madacat Stables for Graham Motion. I see no reason why this horse. She's been in the money every single start. All she does is run. She's got a wicked turn of foot. Perhaps she needs a little bit of a pace situation more than Lady Spitespear and the outside horse. But I think Crystal Cliffs is very live. I have her on top here. I think in general, guys, it's safe to say that this race is going to be very trip dependent. I don't think one horse really lays over any other horses, and let you, the viewers and listeners, let the board be your guide to some extent of who you like here because there's a lot of evenly matched horses in this race. Let's go on to race 9, guys. I go ahead and switch the banners at the bottom of the screen, and also go ahead and go to the Equibase entries here. Race 9, as we can see, as I go full screen here. Race 9 is the Marine Stakes. Now, this is for the 3-year-old males. So this is the male counterpart to the Celine, which was the first leg of the Pick 5. This Marine Stakes is a grade 3. They're going 2 turns, mile and a 16th on the all-weather. You see the field there. This is a field of 8, led by the morning line favorite number 4, Ron Doer. For Ramon Hernandez is going to take the mount here for an excellent trainer as well. And Pete, I'm going to go back to you here. You are going with the 4-horse Ron Doer on top.
Yeah, I was actually a little disappointed that this one was the morning line favorite. I was hoping I didn't think it would happen, but I was hoping it would get overlooked at least a little bit. But you see that, to see that 10 length win, and that sort of jumps out at people, and then coming back with a nice one. I also, just watching the replay of that last race, this horse was just sort of flying into what I thought was a relatively modest pace, and this one was sort of just flying, or maybe not modest, but it just wasn't one that it wasn't like heating up or anything. And this one was just flying late. And then I like that. I always
Let
like
me
the
interrupt you a second, Pete.
yeah. Go
So
ahead.
there's 3 horses that are in this race on Saturday. The
Yep.
one, which is right here, Ironstone. I don't know the if you guys can find the numbers of the horses before so I don't have to look at that. But Ironstone's in this race on Saturday. Duke of Love, who is in the
The
white cap
6.
here, the
Yep.
6 horse,
6.
who is when I meant the numbers, guys, I mean what numbers they are on Saturday is what I meant. Duke of
Yeah, it's the
Love is
6
also
again.
the 6 again. Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And then here's the horse that Pete is like Ron Doer, who's the 4 on Saturday. What is the number of Ironstone on Saturday, guys?
1.
The one.
Oh, really?
Same.
Okay, so the 1 is the 1, the 6 is the 6. Ron Doer, who Pete is about to talk about again here, is the 4 on Saturday. Go ahead, Pete.
Yeah, and I mean it's just one. I mean when you hit the stretch, you'll sort of just see the closing kick. Let's see here, sort of ranges up and see again.
What
It's
looked like he wanted to drift in though. The jock had to go left-handed. She
yeah.
wasn't easy, or he wasn't the easiest to steer. I would just mention that.
Yeah, there's a couple horses that were you saw the horse on the horse on the rail too, who wound up running. I guess ran third, whoever that is. Yeah, it's Ironstone. That one ran a little funky too, where it looked like it maybe wanted to dip to the rail a little bit, or just didn't have a clean straight run. So I don't know if they're. I mean, these are relatively inexperienced horses still, so
Yeah.
they may be. Well, not Ironstone. He should know better by now, but the 4 is relatively inexperienced, so you could hopefully chalk that up a bit. But if you watch Ironstone there, it was a little bit up the
It was up
stretch, but
before that.
yeah. But I mean, I just think I like this one's closing kick, and again, Jim sort of talked about it earlier that just because a horse closes going 7 doesn't mean all of a sudden they're going to be better going long.
Yeah.
But I was just figuring I think I looked at it and it was the stretch out seemed okay. The sire was okay routing. The dam is sort of sprinty, so you never know. But I'm
Yeah.
just going to take the shot. And again, I was hoping for a little bit of a better price, so I was a little disappointed at the 5-2.
Well, that was my concern, and I'm going to just jump in here. I don't have this 4 anywhere. Now, I have when I say anywhere, I mean the top 3. I have the 4 as a B, as in boy horse, in my ABC ticket. I'm concerned about the distance here, Pete. I mean, he's by Oxbow, so you would think he could certainly get the distance. But as you said, the dam is very sprinty.
Yeah.
They've never gone 2 turns with this horse. That's a big negative for me. I do not like when you have a horse going against who has never gone 2 turns against horses that have gone 2 turns. It's just a little pet peeve of mine. I don't like that at all. He did outclose the other 2 that we mentioned pretty well. So I think he's in the mix. I'm a bit negative. I have a few concerns. The horse I have on top, Pete, is the horse that you have in second. I'll let you talk a little bit about Fuerte Ventura.
I mean, it's one of those again. You hate to be a broken record, but it's got the Thomas Kimura combination, which again
Yeah.
is has been super successful. Justin Thomas. I'm thinking golf for a second here. Jonathan Thomas. I saw that he was 43% wins and 64% in the money. I think it was a relatively small sample size, but with domestic shippers into Woodbine. So
Here's the
sort of
stat. This is the last 5 years. Let me repeat. This is the last 5 years. This is not this year's meet. But wow,
Yeah, look at
Jonathan
that. That's
Thomas
ridiculous.
and Kimura, how about 39% win, 65% of the money? I don't care about the average payoff because the horse, the reason why they take a lot of money is because they win.
Yeah,
So
they
I mean,
win.
I'm
So
not,
people are going to
I'm not
bet them
concerned about
eventually.
that. This jockey trainer combination, Pete, is ridiculous.
Well, the one thing, and you talked about a little bit with your reservations about the four, is this one went from 5 furlongs, had a, sort of a garbage race, wasn't bet at all, and
Yeah.
and just looked really bad. Then they stretched this horse out, and all of a sudden this horse wakes up. Now you don't know what that was specifically that woke it up, but it wakes up, and now you're riding a 3 race winning streak. It's gone a mile of 16, 70 a mile, so it's gone. Has gone various distances. Has done it on the synth and the turf. Just seems pretty versatile. Again, it just seems to be one that it'd be pretty hard to leave this one off your ticket.
Yeah, I don't like the morning line. By the way, I thought she'd be. Excuse me. I thought he'd be a little bit higher morning line. Very quickly, let me talk about the 7. Then we'll let Jim talk about his horse. I have the 7, Lock Makaza in second. Pete has this horse in third. Again, this just seems to be a horse to me that's improving. I love the improvement from starts 2 to 3 years old. Big jump up in Buyer to 81. Did get a very nice trip. It had to wait in behind horses. Probably won't get as good a trip this time, but can Giants Gizmo the sire these horses can run all day. I'm not concerned about that. Gets Contreras, stays in the saddle. Again, he is stepping up in class. There's no question about that. But I'll tell you what I like before I move on to Jim, guys, and let me put us on screen here as well. I think this is something that's important for the viewers and listeners. When I see blue coated figures, which means slow paces, but you
Mhm.
still see buyers that are on par with everyone else, that's impressive to me. That means to me the horse can even run faster than it looks like because this horse is closing into. I know it's a big Jonathan Kitchen angle, and many others. This horse is closing well into slow paces, and in theory can run much faster on the buyer scale than he's even done before. So I think Lock Makaza, I'm probably mispronouncing that horribly. I apologize. Is very, very interesting at a price. Jim, let's talk about Mannix, who uh, Pete and I do not have in our top 3 at all.
Right.
You've got him on top for Mark Cassidy and Emma Jane. What is it you like about this horse?
Yeah, the couple of things I like about Mannix. I like both of your selections. My only concern with both the 5 and the 7 is that they come out on maiden claimers to start, and I don't know if they were
Yeah.
really meant to be superior horses going down the line. Mannix has only run 3 times on the Poly, and all 3 races I think were phenomenal. The first one at Gulfstream, and by the way, they're all at the distance, so there's not going to be a distance issue with the horse. Broke his maiden at Gulfstream, at least his United States maiden here, at the distance and the maiden special weight. The second race at Gulfstream, I watched the replay a couple times. I was a little disappointed. The horse actually bumped at the top of the stretch, got checked, and Edwin Gonzalez just pretty much gave up on the horse, really didn't ride him through. Similar situation last race. Last race, I liked that he ran an allowance against older horses. He ran against good quality field of 4, 5, and 6-year-olds. He was stuck on the inside, locked in. Emma Jane was very patient with the horse. Once the horse got a small opening, he burst through and showed a terrific turn of foot down the stretch. I thought it was an excellent race against maybe a little bit better quality field than the others are running. The horse has some tactical speed, has an ability to go through horses, has a nice closing kick. There's the little X at the top of the
Oh,
stretch.
sorry, I didn't mean to see that.
Mannix is a 2-horse right here, and the Emma Jane's in the red and white. You can see she's in between horses here. She's in between horses. She's looking. She's looking. She's looking. She's got to fight her way through. She sees the opening there, and once she gets the opening, that's it. She's going to take off, and she's going to extend. She runs right through the line. It looks like the 6 is getting to her, but if you watch, I don't know how much of the gallop out there show, but the 6 really never got a sniff of her. She started.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I agree with that, Jim. But that's all right. Go ahead.
Well,
go ahead.
yeah, I was getting a little nervous down the lane, and then won by an easy length, and still kept the length the first maybe 20, 30 yards after the finish line. But I don't think a distance is going to be an issue. I like Cassie and Emma Jane. I like the fact that the horse has been running in a little bit of a better company. I like the fact that the horse has some tactical speed, can get into trouble, fight his way through horses, and has a little bit of a closing kick in the stretch. I thought the price would be right at 8-1. It's a wide open field, so why not? Go for it. I think the key to horse racing is kind of kind of balancing your win probability with your value. And I've looked at the line. Is Mannix the most likely winner? Maybe not. Is she very possible? And yes, 8-1 versus the pop probability one. I think it's a pretty good value, especially for a bet like a pick five where you can throw a couple horses in.
Yeah, I could tell you, Jim. I had this one as an A as well. This was basically the decision was between sort of this one and I guess I went with the seven ultimately in my third spot
So,
where we
so you have
on the
four A's here then,
crawl
Pete?
here.
Do you have four
Yeah,
A's,
I
Pete?
do. Yeah, on my,
Okay.
when we get to our ticket. Yeah. So
Okay.
because I thought the same thing. I just thought it was pretty wide open, and I saw the same thing. I thought the hole opened up pretty nicely, and I thought it wasn't as crowded as it could have been, but it was a nice burst once he got the lane. So I figured this one at that price is a nice one to have on the ticket.
By the way, Jim, Maddox might just win because the horse is upset. You keep calling him a her, so
Ha!
that horse might just be pissed off
Yeah, I keep
just on
bouncing
that
back and
alone.
forth between the girls and the boys.
I know that's okay. Anyway, this is another wide open. I mean, these are very tough fields. I thought this is another wide open race. To me, it's very trip dependent. I have six horses, guys, six horses in my A and B line total. Not 12, obviously, but six total between my A and B. I mean, this is a very
Yep.
difficult race. And coincidentally, the one horse who, Jim, you have in third is my only C. So, anyway, another very difficult field. Let's go ahead and move on, guys, to the next race. And I'm going to go ahead and start talking about this race here as I go ahead and switch everything over here. Let's go on to race 10. This is the penultimate leg of this pick five. This is the Highlander. I really like these 6 furlong. This is a 6 furlong turf race. It's a grade 2. I really like these 6 furlong races at Woodbine on this elongated turf course. They go very fast. The turn of foot is really impressive. It's more like a European style kind of turf course. So I really enjoy these turf races at Woodbine. You can see this is a big field here. It's a field of 11. As you can see on the screen there, don't want to give short shrift to the horse at the top of the screen. The Moorline favorite, what a surprise! A Wesley Ward turf sprinter, bound for nowhere. The number 10. Again, of course, Wesley Ward. Pablo Morales coming up for the mount. I am not going with the Wesley Ward on top here, as you can see. Uh, Pete and I have the same thought in this race. I really like what I saw, and maybe I'm a little bit partial to Christophe Clement now since he trains one of the horses I own, but that really has nothing to do with it. I really like what I saw from Voodoo Zip last time. It was only an allowance race. It was optional 80K. The horse was not in for the allowance. I'm sure Pete is going to sort of echo the same sentiments, but this is a replay that has to be watched. Now, Voodoo Zip has to step up a little bit on Saturday, but this was super impressive. You see, he's the 6 horse. Let me show you why I like it, probably why Pete likes this horse also. You see, he's there getting a perfectly fine trip down on the inside. They're not flying at all. This is 22-1. And again, Voodoo Zip in the West Point Silks here is going to angle out. And you'd say, like, right here, you'd say, like, Voodoo Zip wins this race. I mean, it'd be hard to imagine, right? I don't know if this was just superior confidence or what the situation was with the ride, but once Voodoo Zip tips out, even right here, you're like, wow, this horse still wins. Yeah. Once he gets out into the clear, this reminds me of the 2 horse, Jim, that we just watched in that previous race. Now, this is a serious close. Blows by the whole field in the last eighth of the mile into the Sunrise's Night Horse. And it's not as if he was even being used that much. I mean, that's a super impressive close to me. Now, you can make the argument, okay, he did it against a field that's not nearly as good. He's going to have to run much faster. I'm not going to disagree with anyone who says that. My gut feeling here, guys, is that Dylan Davis, who actually has ridden at Woodbine before and knows the track well, he's won stakes at Woodbine, is going to save ground on the inside, going to get a similar trip. He's going to tip out. I think this horse is just coming into his own as a 5-year-old. I think the Clements have figured out what to do because you could see, but earlier in his career, he's pretty much a mile horse running some okay figs. But now that they've sprinted him and he's gotten a little more mature, he's in really good form. It's a wide open field. I think he actually might even get more than 7-2 guys in this race. I like Voodoo Zip quite a bit here, but I would need maybe 9-2, 5-1 to bet him on the win end. Before I move on, Pete, is there anything else that you'd like to talk about Voodoo Zip? Because you have this horse on top also.
No, I think you hit most of it. I did like you mentioned it kind of, but I like that the two best races, well, not the two best, but two of the better races were at 6 furlongs. So I do think I agree with you. I think this one wants to go a little bit shorter. So I really like those. And I almost thought that the horse won despite Rosario. I wasn't 100% sure what Rosario was doing with that horse in that race when I was watching the replay. And then Clement, I had a quick stat. He was like, again, I don't have the sample sizes, but he was 42% win, 83% in the money with shippers to the Woodbine turf. So this is another one where, Clement can bring him in here and run a good race. And I really just like I like that. And I think there's enough speed in here that if this one does sit off again, there's enough
Yeah.
speed in this race to hopefully set a pretty honest pace.
There's definitely speed. You got Chuck
Yeah.
Willis, who is gonna show speed. We just saw Into the Sunrise. He's gonna show speed. You've got let me just go
What's the
down.
8? Maybe
Silent Poet is not slow.
the 8's got a
Electronic is
120
definitely
something.
gonna
Yeah.
show some speed. Bound for Nowhere is definitely gonna be showing some speed, and Arzak's gonna show speed. So there's definitely a lot of speed in this race. I couldn't put Bound for Nowhere on top. I don't like 8-year-olds. But Wesley Ward is obviously the horse can win at 8 because he already did it. This is a much tougher field than he faced at Fairgrounds. It's just a tough spot. Bound for Nowhere can win, but I have no desire to bet him, especially at that price. But I'm using him, and I'll just quickly mention the 9, who Olympic Runner is a nice horse. I don't think this horse has really gotten the respect that he's deserved. He's won almost $500,000. He is coming off a layoff, but the horse can run well off layoffs. There's a lot of speed in this race. Olympic Runner might be the best closer if Mark Cassidy has this horse ready, guys. I see no reason why this horse can't fire. Again, he's got to be ready off the layoff, and maybe this is a little bit too short for him. But I think Olympic Runner is very interesting, especially underneath. Pete, I'm going to let you talk about the 7, and then Jim, you can talk about anyone else you'd like to. You have the Silent Poet, another nice veteran gelding 7-year-old who's won close to $1 million. Pete, you have the source in second.
Yeah, no, and I'll let Jim talk a little bit more about it since he's the one who actually has it on top.
Yeah.
But this is just one where you like to see, and I have a little bit of an affinity for horse for course or horse for distance, and when you have the combination of the two, I always like that.
Yeah,
so
noticed,
so
wow.
10 for 17 at Woodbine, 3 for 4 wins at the distance. The one thing I liked, and it maybe would get overlooked depending on when you're looking at it, is this horse seemed to be improving, and you have the PPs up. This seemed to be improving on the turf at the end of 21. You see, it goes from an 83, 88, 98. Nice progression there, getting the win. And then they come back in 22 after a pretty long layoff and run 2 races on the synth. Now, the horse doesn't run badly, puts up 2 decent figures, runs pretty good to Arzak, who's excellent on the synthetic twice in a row. So you're wondering, you're like, maybe this one doesn't look as good. But if you were coming off that 2021 form, then I think this horse would probably be a lower price. So that's where I sort of lean, that maybe putting this one back on the turf wakes it up again. And it doesn't seem to like the scent as much. So I'm not 100% sure why it was on the first 2. Could be a multitude of reasons, but I like it if it can get back to that form. Jim, I don't know if that was something that sort of pointed you that way.
Well, Pete, before Jim jumps in, I can answer that question you just asked. They were not running on turf at that point of the season. They
right.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yep.
That is up in Canada, up there. So
that's right.
They'll run the turf until early June. So just to answer, sorry, Jim, didn't mean to steal your thunder. I'm sure you would.
That was my thunder, Howard. To go just step over my thunder.
Sorry, Jim. There you go. I just smashed you. Go ahead.
I can add a little bit to that for Pete. I actually watched last year that stakes race, and Nick Gonzalez was interviewed after the race. And again, it looks like the horse hasn't run much, but that was because of COVID. They were shut down half the year last year. They had very limited racing opportunities. So the fact that the horse only ran 3 times last year, don't hold that against the horse. It's just the limited opportunities he had. Nick Gonzalez said that the idea with Silent Poet is he needs a couple races to get going. So last year, the idea was to give him 2 prep races and target him for this Highlander Grade 1. And as you can see, last year, he ran a couple of so-so prep races and exploded in the Highlander. And again, this year, they wanted to do the same thing. Of course, because they weren't running on the turf, they had no option but to go onto the synth. They ran a couple so-so races. They targeted this race. The horse loves the Woodbine turf. He's the undefeated champion. He's 10 for 17 on there. I think 10-1 is a pipe dream. The horse is loved in Canada. I think you'd be lucky to get half of that. I think the race actually sets up pretty well for him because there's a lot of speed in the race. He's a little bit of a stalker. So I think he'll be able to sit off the front speed. By the way, Pete, I'm going to steal a stat from you. I was wondering if you'd come up with this or not. I don't want to outstat Pete.
No, please.
But a Wesley Ward stat on Bound for Nowhere. Wesley Ward has brought 13 horses to Woodbine to run in turf sprints. He's been favored 7 times. He's 0 for 13.
You know what? I looked at that one because I had one too. I didn't know if you were going to say the same one. I had an 0 for 14 win in stakes on the Woodbine turf. So he's got a couple knocks against him, which is great when you can, because that's why I didn't really want to put him in third, but I got scared by the Ward factor, and I was like, I'll put him in third, but I could almost see pulling him off and maybe adding a different one on at some point or going skinnier here.
Yeah, let me throw a little interesting thing about maybe a little backstory about the rail horse, who I don't think anybody has and probably is not interested in. The horse is named Turned Aside.
Yeah, you go ahead, talk quickly, Jim, and then we're going to go on to the last.
Okay, Turned Aside was a fantastic horse. He was a 105 Beyer winner, 6 furlongs at Belmont. The breeder and owner passed away last year unexpectedly, and the horse had to go into an estate sale. The horse was probably 3 or 4 months not trained, sitting in an estate sale. It eventually went to the Cassie barn. When Cassie took the horse over, they paid $725,000 a group for the horse. And he admitted that the horse just wasn't fit, that they really probably shouldn't have run the horse. They probably should have given him a little more fitness. They were a little bit taken aback. They gave a little bit of time off. October 17th, he ran at Woodbine on the yielding turf, ran a very nice second, 96 Beyer in a grade 2. Went to Aqueduct and absolutely needed the Lasix. Ran terrible without it. They gave the horse time off. They trained him all winter. They gave him a little prep race on April 24th. He ran fantastic. They gave him a confident booster last year. This is a horse that's got back numbers that fit. Cassie's been spending 6 or 8 months making a pet project. They spent almost $750,000 for the horse. Comes off a very nice win. Got a fantastic post. Going to be 12-15-1. I mean, to throw him as a B or C in your ticket, it wouldn't hurt. Like I said, there's a backstory about why the horse tailed off. Again, it was the horse was sitting in limbo for 3 or 4 months, with the estate sale issues, and the Cassies had an entire winter to get the horse ready. And if he comes up anywhere near those back numbers, could be an interesting long horse to throw underneath.
I've got the horse
the same note.
C.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Howard.
No, I've got the horse as a C. I encourage people. By the way, Pete, what shirt do you have on there, Pete?
Oh, I don't know. What is this shirt? Oh,
nice.
If I fall off my couch like an old man.
We got it there.
We
got it over there. We got it over there. We got it. Anyway, by the way, people are now going to start wondering, where's the store? Watch the show. Watch the. I'll give an update on the online store because it's almost ready to go. I'll give an update on the online store on the Churchill Downs live show coming up tonight, Thursday night. Guys, let's go on the last race of the sequence. And Jim, I knew you'd come to your senses at some point because we've got the first two. We've got the first two, 1, 3 as our top 2 choices. So Jim, I'll let you talk about the one first. Let me go and bring back our screen here. There we go. The last race is a maiden optional 40 claimers. They're going 6 furlongs on the all-weather. You can see the field there. It's a big field of 12 in this race. Again, it's a field of 12. Moyline favorites all the way on the outside, Mr. D or Mr. Day. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. With Ramon Hernandez in the irons. But you and I are both going with the number 1 with my guy Kimura in the irons. Mr. Brooks, I believe it's a man. I'm sorry. He's the trainer there. Hardware Gap, a crazy 8-1 morning line. What is it you like about the one in the last race, Jim? As I go ahead.
There's a few things I like about the horse. Whoops.
Yeah.
By the way, the race
I believe Kerry Brooks is male. I apologize for not knowing that. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, the race is completely wide open, but I think Hardware Gap does have a couple of things going for it. Again, Kamara taking over as number 1. Alderson is a little bit more of a
jockey upgrade. No disrespect.
Huge. I don't want to denigrate any jockey, but it is a significant upgrade. The May 7th ride at Woodbine was an excellent race. Got a 73 Beyer in the debut. The winner came back to run 3rd in a real tough open claimer. The 4th place winner came back to win. It's a live race. Mr. Crowley came back to win.
Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah, the next race comes off of a bullet work.
Yep.
You know, is training very, very well. Went on the turf last time, and I don't know if there's a lot of turf in the pedigree. Back on the synth in a good post position. You know, I think this one with the blinkers off, being in the maiden 40, I think just got a fantastic chance. It comes anywhere near that debut ride on May 7th. I think actually it has a chance maybe to lay over the field a little bit. Any improvement off of that race, I think, will be big for the horse.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you said. I love the jockey change. I love the blinkers off. I love the bullet. I like the going back to synthetic. I mean, there's very few things I don't like about this horse. It's not the strongest field either. I'll go ahead and talk about the Three Dragons Key. This is a bit of a guess. I don't know how you felt, Jim, about this horse in second, but I was looking for fresh faces in this race. There's a lot of horses that have been running recently, Jim, that I just didn't like. This one is a newly turned 3-year-old. I understand he's not in for the 40. So to me, that's a big, and Pete, I'm going to have you talk about this in a minute. I'm curious to how you feel about this, Pete, but I do not like horses in general that are in for the 40. I mean, if they're in for the 40, that means they're just giving up on the horse and they're for sale. I much prefer horses that are not in for the tag here. And the number 3 is not in for the tag, coming back off a layoff, has been working really well, much better than this horse worked as a 2-year-old. The jockey is okay. It's obviously a jockey downgrade, but when you have the worse the horse, the less the jockeys matter to me to some extent. I guess I'm being a little bit contradictory to now that I like the 1 because of the jockey change, but I do like the 3. I like Robert Tiller as an excellent trainer. Pete, I'm going to bring us all on screen here, and then I'm going to let you talk about the 7 who you have on top. How do you feel these optional maiden races, which are not everywhere throughout the country or in Canada, Pete, when you have horses, some are in for the tag, some are not in for the tag? Am I reading too much into that? Do you even take a look at that?
No, I mean, I look at it. I don't know if it sways me one way or the other, unless again, it's one where if you're trying to decide maybe between 2 or a couple or a few horses, then I could use that as a deciding factor. I wouldn't necessarily just toss a horse because of that, or I wouldn't include a horse who's not in for the tag. It's just one of those where, I always say this on the show, everything's a data point, and to that, it's one you want to at least consider. You don't want to just overlook it completely.
Knowing that you are a big stats guy like I am, Pete, I'm sure you like the 7. 7 is a breeze, coincidentally. It's 6-1, partially not because of Josie Carroll and Justin Stein, but this Josie Carroll's very good first time out.
Yeah, I had Carroll 27% and 50% in the money. 27% wins,
Yeah.
50% in the money, first times on synth specifically. And then I was sort of reaching in this one. I didn't like anything when I took sort of a pass through, and I sort of went with the same idea you did, where you said you were going for a little bit more of a fresh face because the ones who had been
Yeah.
running weren't doing
Here's the
anything
dam of the
outstanding.
7, by the way. Actually, it was a turf distance horse. I don't know if that sways you one way or another, but this is the dam of the 7.
No, it did, and I was looking at that, and because I was looking, and again, the sire stats weren't that great. Was okay with first time starters, but you're not on synth, and the dam was over for first
Dam
time
0 for
starters and
4. Yeah.
synths. So there
Yeah.
was enough against it, but again, I was just like, you know what, I'm going to take a shot with one that had a nice work 2 back, has Carroll. Stein's pretty good. I like the Josie Carroll stats with the first time starters on synth.
Yeah.
Again, I was just sort of
Bit of a
reaching for
guess.
one
Yeah.
that maybe was new and not some old hat that we had already seen not run very well before.
Yeah,
I've done that a few times, guys. I'm sorry for only putting myself on
that's
screen.
all
I don't
right.
know what's wrong. I don't know what's
You
wrong with
know,
me. It's not very self-street, since I can tell you that. I just before we get to our pick fives, guys, and Jim, I'll let you chime in here in a second. I do want to move
no,
on here as we're coming up on about an hour in our show.
okay.
I don't like the fact this horse is in for 40 debuting. It's just an angle of mine that I don't like. People can agree or disagree with me. I'm not saying the 7 can't run. Just if the horse was that good, he wouldn't be in for 40. I mean, I think that's very logical to me. So, Jim, you want to mention it very quickly, and then we'll get to our
Real
pick
quick for
five.
Pete, Carroll and Stein, 5 horses debuting on synth this year, 3 wins. So
Yeah,
I
I mean, I
doing it
like
for
that.
third.
Yep.
Okay. Well, listen, I can't argue that. I have the horse in the mix, just not one of my
It's a
top
spread
choices.
race. It's a spread race. It's
Absolutely.
sort of the final. Yeah, I think it's a
Boy,
spread
I,
because I
You'll
I
don't
see
think
think
you
that
you've
can
on my
said
have
that
pick
a few
five.
confidence in
times.
any of them. Yeah, I have no
Uh,
confidence in any of them.
let's talk about our pick five. And Pete, I'm going to have you go first. And Pete, I assume you were not aware when you sent the ticket. It is a 20-cent base bet. So Pete has a very cheap ticket, but I'll allow him to add to this ticket if he wants to. That I'm going to talk about on the bottom of the screen. The ticket that Pete sent to me is a $38.40 ticket. But again, my gut feeling, Pete, is that you thought it was a 50-cent increment. Pete's ticket here is 3-8 with 2-8. And as Pete, as I read this off, if you want to add some horses, you want to go back and look, let me know. 3-8 with 2-8 with 4-5-7-8 with 2-7-10 with 1-7-11-12. Again, Pete is 3-8 with 2-8 with 4-5-7-8 with 2-7-10 with 1-7-11-12. Pete, off the top of your head, is there a horse that you know for sure now you'd like to add to one of these sequences before we talk about the other two?
Honestly, if I was playing a 20 center, I'd probably would just up the denomination for this ticket. But if I
Fair
was playing a
enough.
20-cent, what I would do actually is because I wrote it down. I liked Jim's two in the first leg. So I think I would add that one in. And then I had a sort of a cross off in the second to last leg. I had the 11. I think that was Arzak. So I had that one as a sort of on the fencer, if I'm thinking of the right race. So I had
Yes.
the 11 in the fourth leg as
Okay.
well. But potentially, yeah, if I was going 20 cents, I think you could also go a little bit deeper. If you have any other opinions for the viewers or listeners, if you have any other opinions in this last leg, take a shot because, especially with some prices, because none of the lower horses, none of them are world beaters and they're on the outside. So if you can get somebody that you like for whatever reason, I think you can go a little thicker in that last leg.
Well, I think you have the same thought that Jim does because we'll take a look at his ticket
Oh,
there
yep,
as
beautiful,
Jim with the
fantastic.
sheepish grin there, going very deep in the last leg. Jim, let me read this off for people that are going to be
Sure.
listening on our audio podcast. 2-3-8 with 2 with 1-3-4-8 with 1-2-7-10 with 1-3-4-5-7-11-12. Again, Jim is going 2-3-8 with 2 with 1-3-4-8 with 1-2-7-10 with 1-3-4-5-7-11-12. Jim, quickly, any thoughts about your construction here in general?
Yeah, I think the thing,
67-20, by the way. Jim's ticket is
right? Yeah,
67-20.
the theme has been how wide open a lot of these races are, and I wanted a lot of coverage in as many races as possible. So I was trying to look for a single, and for me, this Lady Spikes Fear. I think
Wow.
I really do like her a lot. I think she's classes over the field. She's on her home track. She's been training Superior. I'm taking a chance. I'm kind of making a $67 win bet on Lady Spice here. So with having that single and a 20-cent ticket, it really allows you to spread in the other races. I wanted as much coverage as possible in the last maiden claimer. I think it's wide open. There's a lot of angles. A couple 4-year-olds making debuts that I like running against 3-year-olds. Howard's 12 horse I like on the outside. So I wanted a lot of coverage in the last race. So I've got to get through the second leg. If I get through the second leg, I feel pretty comfortable about the ticket.
It's funny, guys. I have to just push back a little bit, Jim. You said you like 4-year-olds against 3-year-olds. I do not like 4-year-olds debuting at this time of year. I would much prefer a 3-year-old at this time of year debuting against a 4-year-old. If we were talking about earlier in the year, maybe we could have a different argument, in my opinion. But if a
Okay.
4-year-old's not debuting until the summer of their 4-year-old season, I'm not a big fan of that. I just want to, again, people can agree or disagree with me. I just want to push back a little bit on
Well,
that thought.
I don't have
Go
any of the
ahead.
4-year-olds as my top three, but I just threw them in the pick as extra horses
Yeah.
in that last leg for 20 cents, just in case.
No, no, I'm not saying they can't win. I'm just saying
Right.
that I prefer a 3-year-old debuting at this time of year than a 4-year-old. Let me go to my ticket. My ticket is $86.40. I've got 4-8 with 3-4-8 with 2-4-5-6-7-8 with 2-3-9-10 with 1-3-12. Again, 4-8 with 3-4-8 with 2-4-5-6-7-8 with 2-3-9-10 with 1-3-12. I'm a little bit skinny early. I do not have Lady Spitespear on this ticket. I do have Lady Spitespear on my ABC ticket, of course. I know that horse is getting back to Woodbine, and maybe I'm not taking that into consideration, but I don't like the form that that horse is in right now, and I think it's a pretty tough field. So I'm not using that horse in my Caveman, but I am using that horse in my ABC. I'm being a little bit risky in this first leg, but only going 4-8. And I suppose you could say I'm being risky in the last leg, but going 1-3-12. But listen, there's a lot. This is a very difficult sequence. And as I take my ticket off, I'm go ahead and bring the banner back on screen here. I would just mention, and I think we should just end with this thought here. Just because it's a 20-cent bet, base bet, does not mean you start just throwing horses all over the place. Because as difficult as it can be, it's my experience, guys, and I'll feel free to chime in here in a second. That's where I want to bring in. When Woodbine went to 20 cents, I found myself using more horses because, hey, I can afford it, right? No, not the way to go. In fact, I like Pete's thought of, hey, if you like the sequence, why not just try to hit it for 40 cents? I think people get way too spready when the base denomination is lower. Jim, would you agree or disagree with that thought?
No, I actually absolutely agree 100%. It's easy just to throw extra horses in because of the low cost. My strategy with this, honestly, what the 20-cent pick does, and again, people shouldn't be concerned about betting the 20-cent pick because it won't pay. I actually went through the last 4 or 5
Oh,
payoffs, and the average payoff on a 20-cent ticket since May and June is $1,184 for late pick
wow.
5 on Saturdays. So,
Yeah.
you can make good money on that. And again, if you hit it twice for 40 cents, it's still less than your base 50-cent cost, and you're making $2,300. But when I hit this, I actually like to do it 2 ways. Normally, I only bet ABCs to like Howard does, but I will make an exception at Woodbine at 20 cent. I tend to throw one ticket in that's more of
Hmm.
a spread ticket,
Okay.
caveman ticket, because it costs us for $20 or $30. I can put a small caveman ticket in, and then I can do my ABC ticket. And I usually would, have numbers covered twice that way, and I have some extra numbers in there that I normally wouldn't have. So maybe my philosophy might be a little bit different than yours, Howard. But I
Well,
think
no,
the
I've
20.
done that before. In fact, I've played one caveman ticket along with my ABC, and my caveman
Mhm.
usually I have one or two singles and like some all
Right.
buttons just to mess around, which I think that's
Yeah.
what you were saying. Pete, any quick thoughts for the viewers and listeners about ticket construction with a lower denomination here of 20 cents? Should that change your thinking at all?
No, I agree with both of you guys, and I think what Jim's point too was at Woodbine and some of these you'll see it. You get some bigger fields than we're normally maybe used to as well, and we don't have. I mean, I think the who was the lowest price favorite we saw probably wouldn't be when we get to the race, but I think the lowest price favorite was maybe 5-2 morning
Correct.
line. I don't remember if there was anything lower than that. So you got bigger fields. You don't have like the 4 to 5 shots. You don't have the obvious singles necessarily. I mean, you see
Yeah.
here, Jim has a single. Howard doesn't even have the horse on the ticket, so it's not like a super obvious single. And it's one of those where if you get those and you get some of these, you don't need 15-1 shots. You just get a couple sixes, a
No.
couple eights in there, and then it blows back up. And for 20 cents, like Jim said, you're getting an $1,100 ticket. For now, you're betting maybe a $30 ticket instead
Well,
of a 60, 70.
with this sequence, I mean, literally, you get 4-1 across the board. This is going to pay 5 or 600. I guarantee it. These field sizes are huge.
Yep.
Some of these morning lines are a little bit, side-eyed to me. It's a great sequence, guys. Listen, Pete Visco, especially Jim Pilares, who we miss having on the show. We'll have Jim and of course Kyle Roscoe on once in a while when Pete and or Paul can't make it or just want to have a roundtable discussion. Jim, any final thoughts? Who knows when you'll be on next? Maybe 2023. Any quick thoughts for the
No,
viewers and listeners on this
that's
sequence on
fine.
Saturday, Jim?
Pete and Paul do such a fantastic job. I enjoy watching them. I would never, ever, ever want to do their. I mean, the preparation involved just for me doing this. You guys doing this on a regular basis just stuns me. And Howard running the whole thing is just unbelievable. So I don't mind every couple months, every couple weeks. If you need a pinch hitter and you're desperate, I'll be here for you guys. But my hats off to you guys for doing this on a regular basis. I will continue to be a watcher. You can see my little comments as we're watching the live shows, and I'm happy to be in that role.
Well, Jim, we appreciate it again. Everyone, we'll talk more about the HHH Racing Podcast online store and a few other things as we're filming this right now at 3 o'clock Central Standard Time in the afternoon on Thursday. This will be up on the YouTube channel here in just a little bit. So most of you will probably watch this show after tonight's live show, which again, if you happen to watch it before, we do have a live show one more time. Episode 155 will be tonight covering a great sequence, Stephen Foster Day at Churchill Downs this Saturday. But we'd like to wish everyone good luck. at Woodbine for a fantastic card this Saturday. This has been Howard Kravitz, along with Pete Visco and Jim Pilars. Crush those tickets at Woodbine on Saturday. We'll see you down the road. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.